Mm. What up, YouTube Live? How's it going? Um, I was away yesterday, pretty busy yesterday, so I apologize. I did not post any videos this past Monday. And you know what? That was okay. That was okay. Sometimes I could use the break. I don't want to feel burnout. I want to enjoy and love what I do, which is, giving you content. Um, and speaking of giving you content, today, I'm going to do this quick live review. Well, not necessarily quick, but I'll keep it under 30 minutes. Live review of Young Justice Outsiders new episodes. Now, I lost track of the time and the premiere. These new episodes actually aired last week, July 2nd, right before 4th of July. And it's been a while since the last episodes, which were back in January. So when the new episodes arrived, I was like, "Whoa! I did not know. I had no idea." And I'm a big fan of the show. You know me. I always do reviews of Young Justice episodes. So now I'm back. It's like, hey, I gotta do this. I love this show, even though this might not get the same traction or the same interest as, I don't know, that video that I made about Halle Bailey being the new black Ariel in the Little Mermaid movie. Holy crap, that video still got views as, you know uh, as I'm doing this one, as we're talking right now, you and I. That video still gets lots of comments, so go check them out right there. I guess, identity politics really resonates with a lot of people. So, okay, back to Young Justice. I'm a huge fan of this show, huge fan of the previous first two seasons. Back when they were on Network. Now they're on DC Universe, which is DC digital streaming service. um I'm not sure what the ratings numbers are when it comes to this one, but as you know, DC Universe reportedly has been having some difficulties, and that's why they were not ready to, or they decided to not renew Swamp Thing for second season because it was too expensive, and the payout to them was not worth the budget. But I think Young Justice Outsiders is a different thing. This is season 3. They call it Young Justice Outsiders, and to me, it's just so much fun watching these animated characters. That many of them have not gotten their live action version yet. Of course, Beast Boy now is part of Titans live action series, so we could see Garfield, or that version of Garfield, there. But the rest, they still haven't had their time in the sun yet, live action wise. So it's cool to see them still be in action in this medium, in animated format. So let's get right to it. Just a heads up, this video contains spoilers, okay? And the new episodes of Young Justice Outsiders are dropping in today. So I'm talking right now only about the episodes from last week because I couldn't do last week's review. So this is video for episodes 14, 15, 16. Later today, when the new episodes arrived, um, I'll come back and do live review of those said new episodes. Um, they're, they always unleash new episodes every Tuesday now. So okay, let's get right to it. Okay, episode 14 is called Influence. All right, so essentially there are about 3 arcs in this one. Quickly, in a nutshell, there's Superman versus Granny Good. I'm sorry, Superman, the old Justice League. Let's just put it that way. Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman versus Granny Good. And while that's happening, meanwhile, of course, the Young Justice is on its way to officially embrace Forager, Tara, Geoforce, and Halo as officially part of the Young Justice, the new Justice League, if you call it, um, to join, of course, Superboy, Dick Grayson, and Artemis / Tigris. And and then the third arc has to do with, well, it's not necessarily an arc, but let's get right to it. I wanna break it down here. The Justice League versus Granny Good. I'm I'm not a big fan of Granny Good as a villain. She just seems so kooky. Um, Granny Goodness never really, like, she's not like, oh my god, freaking dark side, it's so badass, so epic. Of course, in this one, she also kind of works for Darkseid. What I'm trying to say is that there are bigger, epic, more sinister villains in the DC Comics universe. Um, Granny Goodness is one of my least favorites. That said, like I implied earlier, her character is just so kooky, man. I don't know how else to describe her. I'm sorry. She's on this show putting on a face like she's like, oh, every America's sweet grandma, and then of course, the interviewer, what's his name, Godfrey. He would be like, hey, do you like what do you get the grandma ever, something along that line. He's so slimy, the interviewer, Godfrey, is so weaselly. It is like, oh my god, you feel like you want to take a cold shower afterwards. The way he talks straight to the camera and so seductively, like he looks like a perv, man. But enough about him. So of course, Granny Goodness pretends to be like this, America's sweet, grandma, Gretchen, Granny Good. Um, and I think she has a production company called Good Studios Production, or something. And of course, that's a propaganda sort of production video company. And so by the end of this arc, the Justice League encounters, Granny Goodness in space with her colleagues. And at one point, Superman, Wonder Woman, and I believe Hawk Girl got thrown out into space, and they couldn't breathe. Now that Okay, so there have been many, not many, I should say. Maybe I would let me rephrase that. There have been different. There you go. Different iterations of Wonder Woman and Superman specifically, where they can breathe out in the outer space. Um, Christopher Reeve is one that you can remember. He flies out into space to throw nuclear bomb into the sun. Um, and there is an iteration like this one where Superman and Wonder Woman is like, oh, oh, I need my oxygen. We're gonna freeze to death out here. And of course, Green Lantern saves the day. Of course, Green Lantern is always fun. I love this character, especially Hal Jordan. He's like so chill, and he cracks jokes, and so even though this one is not voiced by Nathan Fillion, voice actor Troy Baker, I believe that's the one that voices Green Lantern. I believe. Let me double check here. Yeah, he emulates Nathan Fillion. He emulates Nathan Fillion's take on Green Lantern, and um, of course, that provides some of this episode's most entertaining moments. So to conclude, well, funny enough, it didn't have really a conclusion. It's like to be continued. Their fight or their encounter with Granny Goodness. But my thoughts overall about it is, all right. It's nice to see the old Justice League once in a while. Sometimes they would pop up in the Young Justice series, just like in the previous seasons, obviously. But let's get back to the kids. Because they are the embodiment of the title of the show. So Granny Goodness, again, not my favorite villain. Um, Hopefully, it'll lead to Dark Side, something more sinister, something more formidable. But if it leads up to that, then I'll be like, you know what, fine, fine. I'll tolerate Granny goodness for a few episodes if you can lead us to, somebody bigger, some dark side or something. All right, so the next arc is Young Justice. As I said, they're officially accepting these new members, the four people. And what I meant to say by third arc is actually regarding to Tara. Um, but before we get to Tara, it's funny. There's a moment in this. I guess you can call it initiation, where they're in the watchtower, and Martian Girl kind of like welcomes them. Hey, welcome! You are now part of our team. You're gonna help us, with all these missions to take down the villains along the way, whatever, right? So, and at one point, Artemis slash Tigress says, "Yeah, and it's so good that we have grown in numbers when it comes to the women members, the female members. We've grown in numbers. Like we have more women now in the team, and that's true with Halo and Tara now joining the team. But the one moment was Halo says, "You know what? Girl, I never see myself as a girl or a woman, or I never." It's like it seems so boxed in. I'm paraphrasing, of course. She says something along those lines, like, I grew up not really knowing, where to, which label or box I need to check. And Martian Girl's like, you know what? That's totally fine. That's totally fine. That's the beauty of your growing up, and you guys are still finding your identity. You're still exploring who you are. Finding yourself. So that's so cool. As we do our thing, along the way, and we'll accommodate each other, help each other, and hopefully you'll, you know, you know, come to that point where you, aha, that's my identity. Now that one stands out to me because Ange, Chidi, how late does the new episode come out, and what are your thoughts on Zatanna? Zatanna, I I like the character. Um, if you ask me, hey, where do I rank Zatanna in on in the ranking of all my favorite DC characters? I would say she's probably in the middle. Granny Goodness is like way in the bottom. I'm sorry, just not a big fan of Granny Goodness. She's so out there, man. She's like, I don't know. I guess maybe I have an affinity for my grandmothers, both from both sides of the family, and to the idea of my grandma being a villain is just so weird. Zatanna is cool. Don't get me wrong. I think she's a fantastic character, and her use of magic is awesome. So I would say she's probably like right in the middle there. Of course, Superman is my number one. I grew up with Superman, so thank you for that question. So that moment when Halo's like, oh, I don't know if I would consider myself a girl. You know what that is, right? You know what that is. That is the show's way of catering to people who are still finding their identities as far as gender goes. Maybe they're non-binary people, they call it, right? Or they don't necessarily identify as female or male. Now I'm not saying that is what Halo is. I'm not saying that Halo is necessarily gender queer in that way. But that is subliminally, that's the show's way of, hey, giving you or sending you a message to America, to the young people audience watching this, like, hey, we're in 2019, so our show, the writers are like, our show is gonna address, our show is gonna try to, bits, pieces by pieces, are gonna try to tackle some of these topical stuff. Um, so it's okay to me, in my opinion. I'm a liberal. I'm fine with it. I know it's probably gonna trigger a lot of SGW and anti SGW right wingers out there. It's like, oh no, Young Justice outsiders addressing freaking non-binary and not identifying with male and female. How dare you? But in my opinion, it's like, dude, this is uh, this is kind of like, to me, this is the equivalence of, remember GI Joe back in the 80s, 90s. um they have this PSA, public service announcement, sort of silliness sometimes, and they go like, at the end, the GI Joe characters would tell the kids like, oh, glad we could help you. Knowing is half the battle, he said, right? Knowing is half the battle. Of course, back then, it's all the knowing part is like anything Ronald Reagan-esque era. That whole mindset. um and it's funny, whenever they say knowing is half the battle, and then the next scene or whatever, the next episode, it'll cut into like punching each other, and uh, it's quite the lesson there, pops. So it's equivalent to that. It's equivalent to that, but it's for today's generation, and I think that's totally fine. You got Why not? Why not? It's not, the way it's done in this episode with Halo. It doesn't hit you in the head. It doesn't hammer you in the head. Oh, you got to accept it now. You know. So it just softly, gently says, hey, maybe Halo doesn't really identify with being a girl, and that's totally fine. Um, that's her prerogative, and we should be, as a society, as a people, we got to be more tolerant with years progressing. 2019, 2020, 2021, we got to think and behave like 2019 to 2020, 2021. We can't think and behave like 1950s or 1960s. We're moving forward with the years. Our mindset, the way we treat each other, needs to also move forward. And I think I appreciate this little moment that is in this episode of Young Justice Outsiders. Lastly, about this episode, um, the one with Tara. So Tara, of course, her power that she can move, rocks and geological objects. And in this episode, it's revealed that she is an informant for Deathstroke. So she is feeding information to Deathstroke. So basically, she's a traitor. And you know what? I was like, when I saw that, I was like, whoa, that's freaking Teen Titans, the Judas Contract storyline. Remember the Judas Contract? That was totally, the whole Tara, having a crush on Deathstroke, but Deathstroke didn't give her the time of day. She got pissed off, and at the end, spoiler alert, she sacrificed herself after after going on a temper tantrum. Remember that? The movie Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. You go check it out. So I guess the Young Justice Outsiders in the season um, seems to you know adopt a little bit of that, and I think eventually we're gonna see Tara and Judas Contract storyline esque in this new season. Um, Before I move on to the next episode, Leverage, I just want to say that I interviewed voice actors Stephanie Lemelin and Troy Baker last year at the Comic Con. So underneath this video, I have provided you the link to watch my video interviews with Stephanie Lemelin and Troy Baker. So if Stephanie Lemelin, of course, voices Tigress and Artemis, and Troy Baker voices Breon Markov, Geoforce, Green Lantern. So go watch my video interviews with Stephanie and Troy Baker through the link in the description box below. All right, so the next episode is Leverage. In this one, there's a couple of arcs going on. One of which is, excuse me, our team, Young Justice, led by Tigers, including Geoforce and Halo. They are in a battle with the Suicide Squad, and so Amanda Waller orders Black Manta, Hala, I believe the other one, and the third one, I believe, is uh, Boomerang, Captain Boomerang. The mission for Suicide Squad, that tiny Suicide Squad of three, it's not really Young Justice. They're there to mess with the Red Brigade of Russia. Um, but Young Justice happens to be there to to do their thing, and they fight off Black Manta and Captain Boomerang, in a very cool fashion. um, and in this episode, Amanda Waller discovers, like, oh my God, so there is such a thing as this younger team of Justice League. Like, they call it Justice Secret Op or something like that. It's like, oh my God, that's so. In this episode, Amanda Waller finds out for the first time, apparently. And and the fight happens in the middle of the snow, and because it's freaking Russia. And to me, it's Russia has always been our, when I say our, America's mortal nemesis on the screen, whether it's live action big screen or animated movies or TV series like this one. Russia is like the easiest go to, to have when you want to create villains for your story. It's you might say, hey, it's not Cold War anymore. How is this relevant? It's just like, oh, 1980s called. They want their villains back. Uh, but now with the whole red baiting of, oh my God, Russians interfering with our election, and so now it's like, okay, here's another round of Russians again. Um, but again, Young Justice beef is not with the Russians. As I said, in this episode, they're trying to stop the Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad looks so pathetic, man. There's only three of them. And at one point, Halo got stabbed in this episode. Gets stabbed by Captain Boomerang's boomerang, and of course, the thing is, as you know, Halo can resurrect herself, right? She can heal herself, she can regenerate, and she can resurrect. So she can die how many ever times, and she will get back up, given enough time, back alive again. And to me, it's like, okay, that's a pretty cool power, but after a while, if it keeps happening where she gets shot, or she gets beheaded, or she gets blown to pieces, or she gets stabbed by a boomerang, and then comes back again every single time, it becomes like a running gag, if you show that to me too often, there will come a point where I would not be able to take Halo seriously. because now she's like because now she becomes like Kenny. Remember Kenny in the South Park? Oh my God, they killed Kenny, and then the next episode, Kenny's back alive again. So I think I think there's only a few times that has happened now to Halo, but they should, maybe the writers, I should say, they should really um ease back on that a little bit. Don't play that out way too often. Don't play that card way too often. Because you don't want to minimize Halo to the level of Kenny from South Park. So that's my thought about that. The next arc in this episode involves Eduardo and some of the meta human kids, and he's a counselor at this group slash meeting. That it's like, hey, we want to make you feel safe. You don't need to wear this dampening collar. You can leave anytime you want. But basically, this is like a freaking summer camp for training um, new meta humans, very young ones, to not just train them physically, but train them emotionally so they can control their power. And one of them is Windfall. Windfall was not able in this episode to control her power. And what happens is there, she unleashes her power, and then Mist and Livewire and Eduardo are there. They're in this auditorium or room, and Windfall's power, sucks up the oxygen. She sucks up the oxygen from the room. So everybody's like, "Oh my God, I can't breathe! I can't breathe!" So Eduardo has to transport or teleport a freaking Windfall out of there. And if Windfall's like crying, like, I'm sorry," and then she puts on her collar dampening because she doesn't want to hurt anybody anymore. And that storyline actually spills over to the next episode, Illusion of Control. But my quick thoughts about that is like, okay, this is very X-Men esque, right? This is very X-Men esque. Eduardo is like Charles Xavier, telling, "Oh, you can control it, Gene. You can control it." Well, I'm trying to do a British accent here. James McAvoy's accent. You can control your power, Gene Grey. Uh, I don't know why it comes off Australian there. So it's very X-Men esque, and it's cool. I mean, uh, seeing Livewire and Mist and Windfall, in one episode is pretty cool. I got no more thoughts beyond that, but it's just, yeah, it's just very X-Men esque. It's like, hey, we're gonna help you control your power so you don't hurt yourself or hurt anybody around you. All right, so that leads us to the last episode, episode 16, Illusion of Control. Funny enough, there's Thanksgiving here. So apparently this episode is set during Thanksgiving season, and leading up to Will Harper, Artemis hosting a lot of people in their house this Thanksgiving dinner. Some of the guests include Forager and Victor, aka Cyborg. And in this episode, we also see Forager sort of trying to befriend Victor, but Victor has his personal struggle, has his demons. Like, hey, yeah, just leave me alone, leave me alone. I don't need your friendship right now. And Forager is a gentle heart. Forager's like so naive and gullible. It's like, hey, I just want to be friends with everybody. Like, why can't I help you? Again, but Forager, of course, ultimately gives Victor space. Um, so that's that, right? In that episode. I mean, that storyline also involves Tigress's mother, Artemis's mother, showing up for the Thanksgiving dinner, and she finds out that Artemis is still out there kicking ass, being superhero, and and she's pissed about that. It's like, come on, you're not getting any younger. Why are you still wearing the mask and doing the superhero crossbow and arrow shit? Just settle down. Look at Will. It's like, he's like, why? What do I look at Will? Like, Will, his wife's not coming back. Maybe you could be together. It's like, but that's my brother-in-law. So there's a little drama here that is, they're trying to make it very soapy on this part of the episode. The whole like confrontation with mom, and like, why don't you hook up with your brother-in-law? um and yeah, it's very soap opera-ish. I don't know if it's gonna resonate with a lot of DC fans, but so, you know what, my counter argument to that is like, hey, sometimes we could use a little drama like that. Young Justice or Justice League animated series or animated movies, they don't always have to be about punching villains in the face or kicking bad guys in the ass all the freaking time. So this is the drama that the writers happen to give us for this episode, and um it's just, to me, it's kind of funny. I'm sure for some of you probably think it's not funny, and like, hey, uh, the mom has a point there. Maybe it's time for Artemis to kind of settle down and hang her cape or hang her mask and just be this home family kind of woman, whatever. Um, and I'm sure for those of us, I know this is not part of the episode, for those of us fans of Superboy and Martian Girl, we also came across that kind of moment too, for them or about them, because they're thinking about the future, like, oh, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna get married? Are we gonna have children? Are we gonna keep being superheroes when forever? Like, so these kinds of questions, like the ones that Artemis' mother presents to Artemis in this episode, as soapy as it may be, it kind of makes sense for the characters. If you put yourselves in their shoes, these characters are still, people, people with aspirations and hope for the future. And so, and if I were in their shoes, I'd be like, oh, I don't know, man, my body started to ache in places that they don't necessarily, they didn't previously ache before. So I don't know how long I can still do this. The other arc that's going on in this episode involves Queen. I keep forgetting her name. Queen Perdita. Queen Perdita and Garfield. Oh, I forgot to mention Garfield Logan, aka Beast Boy, rejoins the Young Justice team after he finds out about the whole Granny Goodness being evil and whatnot. And Granny Goodness, of course, on the set of Space Wreck, keeps giving Gar a hard time because now they're in, like, they have this friction because Gar doesn't like Granny Goodness. So he rejoins the team, and Gar has a lot of cool fight moments in these 3 episodes as various animals, including gorilla and a hawk at one point. In this episode, Queen Perdita got kidnapped by Count Vertigo. Count Vertigo, who is a fantastic character, villain character in my book. But turns out Count Vertigo is not Count Vertigo. As it turns out, it's freaking Onslaught, Simon and Devastation, pretending to be Count Vertigo and his colleague. So there's that storyline in this episode, and but you know now we get to thinking like, okay, where is this going? Like, why is Onslaught, involving themselves like this? I mean, are they still just pissed about that whole time when their fight club in the mall got ruined by Young Justice? Is that why? Is this their way of getting back at Young Justice? If this is, then it's a very, very weak way of doing it. Or maybe they're doing it for a bigger reason, something dark side related or something. But yeah, but it's still cool though to see at least the guys in action, in their attempt to try to rescue Queen Perdita. Perdita, I don't know how to pronounce it. Especially, I love Blue Beetle. Blue Beetle, talking with Scarab. So you know how it is with Blue Beetle and Scarab. It's like multiple personality thing. He would talk to like, oh no, shut up. No, I'm not gonna do that, because Scarab is the kind of character who, his solution to everything is punch first, talk never. Punch first, diplomatically, converse never. You gotta just like kick ass, kick ass, kick ass. No matter no matter what the consequences. So seeing Blue Beetle doing that, like a crazy person, is entertaining in this episode. So yeah, those are my thoughts about these 3 episodes: 14, 15, 16. The new episodes will arrive today, later today, and I'll be back as well to give you my live review of those episodes. I'm sorry. But before I conclude, I just want to say, I love Young Justice Outsiders. I think the way it's done in DC Universe is fantastic. The animation is a lot sharper and a lot crisper than how it was back when Young Justice was on Cartoon Network. And for those of you who haven't seen any of the episodes or any of Young Justice, dude, give it a shot. Give it a shot. I think you're gonna like this show. Granted, some the storylines kind of jump around a little bit. What I mean by that is, like episode 14 has Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern versus Granny Goodness, and then that storyline doesn't get revisited again, until God knows when, because the next subsequent episodes are back to being about Young Justice. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you'll find yourself a little bit frustrated, a bit like, oh, where's the conclusion for that one? How come we never see that one resolved? So, and but they'll revisit again, but it all depends or relies on the timing by the writers. So sometimes storylines are like that, jumbled up a little bit. Sometimes the writers will put in a new arc or new storyline in the middle of what's already going on for a 3 arc episode, and then you're like, whoa, where's this coming from? But don't worry, it all comes back around again. It all comes back around again. The crux of it, at the heart of it, is this: are these young characters trying to get or trying to be in sync or be in the same rhythm as a team. So that's the crux of it, especially now with Geoforce, Terra, Halo, and Forager joining in. So, but I like it. It's each episode is only 20 minutes long. Dude, it's so fast. The next thing you know is that lullaby song at the end already happens again. I was like, whoa. So it doesn't really, it's not time consuming. You can totally enjoy Young Justice Outsiders, and you'll barely feel like your time has been taken away from you. So go check it out. It's on DC Universe. Apparently, the new episodes are now every Tuesday. It used to be every Friday. But now because every Friday is Swamp Thing. So yeah, go check it out. It's on DC Universe. Thank you so much for tuning in on this live review of Young Justice Outsiders. I'll keep doing it as new episodes arrive. All right, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell, share your comments down below, and if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's rock this.